Namaste students, welcome to your history class. We are going to start with the very first chapter in your textbook, which is all about the Saraswati Sindhu civilization. Now please pay close attention. This is an extremely important chapter, especially for your Haryana board exam, so we will go through it step by step to make sure every single concept is crystal clear.
So, here's how we're going to tackle this chapter. First, we'll start with an introduction. Who these people were and where they lived. Then, we'll explore their amazing cities. After that, we'll look into their society and economy. We'll also cover their art and what they believed in. Then comes the big mystery. Why did this great civilization decline? And finally, we will do a quick revision and I'll give you some simple memory tricks to help you prepare for your exams.
Okay, let's begin with the first section. We need to start with the basics. Who were the people of the Saraswati Sindhu civilization? Where exactly was this civilization located, and how on earth did we find out about them after thousands of years? Let's find out.
Now just look at this map. This was not some small village culture. This was India's very first urban civilization. I want you to appreciate how vast it was. It stretched all the way from Uttar Pradesh in the east to Baluchistan in the west. We're talking about an area of over 2 lakh square kilometers. That's bigger than many countries are today. It was a huge, incredibly well spread out civilization.
You might have heard other names for it, right? Like the Indus Valley Civilization or the Harappan Civilization. Harappan because Harappa was the very first site to be discovered. But your textbook and many historians now prefer the name Saraswati Sindhu Civilization. And why is that? Well, it's because a huge number of settlements have been found along the banks of the ancient Saraswati River. And remember, this was happening at the same time as the great civilizations in Mesopotamia and Egypt. Students, please mark this slide. This is very, very important for your 1-mark questions in the exam. You must remember these names and dates. In 1921, it was Dayaram Sahani who discovered the site of Harappa. The very next year, in 1922, Rakal Das Banerjee, or R.D. Banerjee, discovered Mohenjo-daro. These two discoveries were game changers. They revealed a completely unknown, ancient urban civilization to the whole world.
Let us understand the timeline carefully. Historians have divided this civilization's long history into 3 phases. The first is the early period, where small agricultural villages began to grow. But the second phase, the urban period, from 2600 to 1900 BC, this is the one you absolutely must remember. This was their golden age. This is when the great cities were built. And finally, we have the later period, after 1900 BC, when the civilization started to decline and eventually collapsed. So what was so special about their cities? That brings us to our next section, and perhaps the most remarkable feature of this civilization, their town planning. Now, listen carefully, students, because a 5-mark question on this topic is very common in the board exam. Their cities were not just a random jumble of houses. No, they were masterfully planned. Just imagine, the towns were divided into 2 parts, a fort on the west and a residential area on the east. The roads were wide and straight, cutting each other at perfect right angles. The main road in Mohenjo-daro was over 9 meters wide. They had an advanced, covered drainage system. Even the bricks they used were of a standard size, in a fixed ratio. Now what does this tell us? This is the key point. Such uniformity across such a large area is only possible if you have a very strong, efficient, central administration or government.
Your textbook shows 2 excellent examples of their engineering skills. On the left is the famous Great Bath of Mohenjo-daro. This was a huge public tank, beautifully constructed and waterproofed, probably used for religious ceremonies. And on the right, you see the Loful Port in Gujarat. This was an artificial dockyard. It tells us they were experts in maritime engineering and that trade was incredibly important to them.
Okay, so we've seen their amazing cities, but what about the people who lived in them? How did they live? What did they eat? How did they earn their living? Let's now move on to understand their society and economy. From the evidence found, it seems society was divided into different classes. You would have had rulers, maybe priests, then traders, artisans, and laborers. Their diet included both vegetarian and non-vegetarian food, things like wheat, barley, meat, and fish. And they were quite fond of ornaments. They made beautiful jewelry from gold, silver, copper, and even bone. As for entertainment, they played games similar to modern chess and also enjoyed dance and hunting. Their economy was very robust, and we can say it rested on 4 main pillars. The foundation, of course, was agriculture. Then came animal husbandry.
They also had many industries, making pottery, textiles, metal tools, and so on. And the fourth, very important pillar was trade. They had trade links not just within their own regions, but also with foreign lands, like Mesopotamia.
All right, moving on to their religious beliefs and art. You see, the art that a civilization leaves behind gives us many clues about what they believed in, what they worshipped. So let's look at the clues these people left for us.
These pictures from your book show what excellent artists they were. On the left is the famous stone idol from Mohenjo-Daro, often called the Priest King. Just look at the fine details on his shawl. And on the right, you can see their terracotta or clay figures. They made idols of humans, animals, and birds. This shows they had mastered the art of working with different materials like stone, metal, and clay.
Now, let's talk about these seals. These are probably their most famous artifacts. They were like ancient stamps used for trade and administration. Each seal has a beautifully carved animal and a line of script. And that script, which you see on the right, is the greatest mystery of this civilization. We have found thousands of examples of their writing, but to this day, nobody has been able to read it. So, what did they believe in? Based on the artifacts, we can make some good guesses. The discovery of many female figurines suggests the worship of a mother goddess. There is also the famous Pashupati seal, which shows a figure sitting in a yogic pose, surrounded by animals. Many scholars believe this is an early form of Lord Shiva. They also worshipped animals, like the one-horned animal, and trees, like the peepal tree. And yes, they also practiced yoga and had different types of funeral rites.
So, this brings us to a huge, very important question. How could such a vast, organized, and advanced civilization just disappear? What could have possibly happened? Let's investigate the reasons for their decline.
Now, historians believe it wasn't just one single thing. It was more like a combination of many problems. One theory is administrative stagnation, that the government grew weak and couldn't maintain the cities. A very strong theory is climate change. Maybe the Saraswati River dried up. We also find evidence of massive floods in cities like Mohenjo-Daro. Then, their foreign trade might have collapsed, which would have destroyed their economy. And finally, some skeletons show signs of diseases like malaria, so an epidemic is also a possibility. Remember this for your exam. It was likely a combination of these factors.
Okay, everyone, this is the final part. Let's do a quick revision of the entire chapter. Please, dhyan se suno. I will also give you an easy way to remember the important points for your exam.
So let's quickly summarize. 1. It was India's first urban civilization from 2600 to 1900 BC. 2. Remember the discoverers, Dayaram Sana and R.D. Banerjee. 3. Its most famous feature was its excellent town planning. 4. Its economy was based on agriculture, industry, and trade. 5. They worshipped the mother goddess and Pashupati Shiva. 6. Their art is known for its stone idols, clay figures, and seals. And 7. It declined because of multiple reasons. I suggest you all take a screenshot of this slide. It will be very helpful for last-minute revision.
And here is a simple trick to remember the causes of the decline. Just remember this word, ACFIT. A for administrative stagnation, C for climate change, F for flood, I for illness or epidemic, and T for a decrease in trade. Just remember ACFIT, and you will easily be able to write 5 points in your exam.
This sentence from your textbook sums it all up perfectly. The fact that the bricks, the pots, the seals, the weights were all the same across thousands of kilometers, it points to only one conclusion. There must have been a very, very efficient administration. The incredible organization is their biggest legacy.
4,000. Just think about that number. It has been 4,000 years since the urban phase of this great civilization ended. For most of that time, we didn't even know it existed. And even today, so many mysteries are still buried, waiting to be discovered.
So I want to leave you with a final thought. The biggest mystery, of course, is their script. If, one day, we are finally able to read what they wrote, if you could ask them just one question to understand their world a little better, what would that one question be? Think about it.